to the end of the last day of NRF 19. I'm Debbie House, Editor-in-Chief of Retail TouchPoints. On my right is Adam Blair, Executive Editor at Retail TouchPoints.
Hi.
And on my left, we have our guest speaker today, Stephen Bailey, who's a Retail Innovation Lead at Deloitte. Thanks so much for joining us today, Stephen.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So, my general overview of the event this year is that it's been a lot of positive energy. I feel like the retailers and the solution providers feel like it's going to be a positive year in retail. There's a lot of continuing conversation about some new technologies that we've been hearing about for years, but now they're starting to figure out how to actually implement them in an effective way. But I'm curious to hear from your perspective what you've seen at the show, and also what are your predictions, I guess, for the future of retail in 2019?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head a little bit, that people are coming off of a pretty positive holiday season. And we get asked constantly, do we think there's a recession coming or not? Officially, we had actually our chief economist was here yesterday and to talk about that, to say, currently trends don't look like this year would be the year. If it may happen in 2020, but it may, barring any other unforeseen political events, 2019 may stave it off. But that aside, what we see here with everybody coming in with a positive outlook, expecting this year to maybe not be blockbuster, but to certainly be strong. And how do they then start to use this year to shore themselves up for any possible downturn? And what is it they can do now? What technology, what processes, et cetera, could they be putting in place to differentiate their brand so that they're really positioned well in their market in the coming years?
All right, excellent. And Adam, what were your perspectives?
Well, I was hearing a lot at the show about emotional connections, creating emotional connections with consumers. That seemed to be a consistent theme. How to do it and why it's important, and how to take what's can be kind of a fuzzy concept and make it more of a practical thing. So I'm curious if you're hearing about that, or that seems to be a theme, and also what Deloitte might have in terms of advice or thoughts for retailers as they're trying to do that.
Right. One of the good things and bad things about NRF is you see so many vendors, and you see these solutions that often are not probably integrated as part of a complete customer journey and are addressing specific problems, of course. And so at Deloitte, what we wanted to do is really understand, that's great when I look at these in isolation. What does it mean for our clients? Because our clients are saying, I really need somebody to help integrate all of this and kind of tell the story end to end. And we wanted to really understand that full journey before, during, and after the shopping experience as well. What we did so that we could get our own learnings and inform our own opinion is we've created, both in the UK and here in the US, a connected store concept. And with this connected store, we brought in sort of the big players for some of the underlying technology, and then a number of startups and technology solutions like we're seeing here at NRF. But instead of it being a technology first, we started with, well, what is the customer journey end to end? Where do we want to integrate artificial intelligence? Where do we want to integrate smart beacon technology in the store? Using RFID, we've been talking about RFID for 25 years. We still haven't been able to see the full fruit of that labor. So where does that sit and for what types of retailers? Smart shelf technology, smart video technology for grab-and-go scenarios and frictionless checkout. And so we put together a number of use cases where we really wanted to expand on how do we engage that customer in the right way. Both our really loyal customers, our younger customers who like to be interacted with, who like to be known, as well as our customers who don't like to be known and don't want to feel that they're being pushed toward a sale or interacted, whereas other customers feel that that adds value because you're giving me more information about the product, you're showing that you know me. So how do you make that balance in your store when you're trying to appease all of these different consumer types? So what we did in this connected store is we walk people through, it's in our studio here in Soho, and we walk them through, not to say this is the answer for you, but this is the art of the possible, how you could take some of these technologies you're seeing at NRF and elsewhere and start to integrate them together. And let's talk about what are the ways where you could start simply to really test out and try these capabilities, because we see a lot of this technology, especially anything AI, IoT, right? All the acronyms we've been talking about. And they're being explored, and our clients are experimenting with them in their stores in Soho or a flagship where they might be located. But we don't see it spread widely yet. And so, and that's right, that's the right pacing. But how do we get to that next step of where this is really a widespread solution where consumers who have these expectations are interacting with your brand in the way that you want?
So how are retailers able to come and visit your connected store?
Sure. Anybody who has contacted us, or our existing client accounts, of course, are welcome to come, and we can walk them through that demonstration. And we show them, we tell them up front, right, this is about art of the possible. We try to make it so that let's have the conversation and honestly, quite frankly, do a workshop around it so we can figure out what pain points really to address for that particular brand. But to get them thinking in an environment that is outside of their home office, is outside of their own retail location. And then we also share our lessons learned, right? Not all of it works together well the first time, and not all of it integrates well, and a lot of it is dependent on data and data integration, right? Nobody wants to talk about that, that's not very sexy, but it is the underpinning to make all of this work. So people are saying, I don't even have the data connected to do that. Yeah. And we go, okay, then let's address that first. So so we do that to walk them through and then have that conversation.
All right, that's fantastic.
I like that you talk about the art of the possible, because with emotional engagement, as you say, some customers don't want to have a deep emotional connection with every brand that they operate with. Some just want to do a grab and go and just, that's it. Others, they're really right for it, and it's going to make a difference. I heard it described as, would it really be a loss in your life if this brand went away? That's what retailers are aiming for, but not every brand is going to have that kind of connection with people.
No, and some brands might need to do both, right? High touch and low touch. So how do you have a system that adapts appropriately and identifies how somebody wants to be interacted in the right way so that you don't lose them as a customer?
Yeah.
The other part of all of this is the connection between the technology and human engagement.
Yes.
And I've been having that conversation with a lot of people here at the show. And so I think that some companies are scared that they're going to implement technology and it's going to eliminate human interaction. And so is that something that you talk a lot about with your...
We do, because if somebody starts to talk, oh great, how does this help operations? Does it mean I need fewer staff? Right? And we say the goal isn't to only have fewer staff. The goal isn't to eliminate the human connection. The goal is to make every human interaction be a fruitful one that the customer wants, and that ultimately drives revenue, but is a personalized experience, or is low touch as it should be accordingly. We also talk about with the technology itself. When technology is at its best is when it's like a utility. The telephone and electricity, it's invisible. It's solving a problem, and it's invisible. If that experience, if somebody goes through and they don't realize or don't think about the fact that I interacted with a smart shelf and my face was captured on video to tell my sentiment while I was looking at something, and as I walked in, a beacon picked up that I entered the store, we don't want them to think about those things. We want them to think about the experience with the brand that they had during that time. Those just happen to be the facilitators.
So you want the product and the store to be the star, essentially, not the technology itself. Although sometimes there is a bit of a cool wow factor that some retailers work with, like, oh, we have this cool technology and that'll attract people. But I get what you're saying about the invisibility aspect of it.
Right, but there's a playfulness, right? So if I'm doing something for a display that's on my store windows to try to attract and bring you in, then I want something cool that is about the technology. Come here and your face gets recognized, it gets replaced with an emoji or something else that's fun and just appropriate for your brand. Then yes, you're highlighting the innovation and the technology itself. Once you're in the actual journey and that path to purchase, how do you make it as invisible as possible?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's about what are your business goals and objectives? What is your audience? What are your customers looking for?
Right.
And then how do you address those needs? And technology is a big part of it, but humans are a big part of it as well. Right?
Yeah, we say everybody's focused so much on on delighting the customer, and they should be. How do I also delight the store associate and make their job easier and make them more effective in their day-to-day work, whether that's stocking shelves for a particular type of retailer, or it's creating a window that's going to be most effective because you've got information about who comes into your store, how they interact with everything in your store. We have all this information that we're used to now with behavior online because we've been capturing that information. We don't have as much or similar information about behavior in the store. I know the revenue in the store, but I don't always know the conversion of the store completely. How many people were in that store versus how many people actually bought? What would I do differently to engage and bring people into the store, and once they're there, help them to convert? So thinking through those things, that's where the store associate needs to be empowered versus replaced.
Right, absolutely. Well, I think it's going to be a fun year in retail. It's been a great couple of days here at NRF. Again, real positive energy, I felt. So thanks for joining us today.
Yes, thank you.
Really
for having
enjoyed
me.
it.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Adam.
Sure.
And we'll see you all here next year.